101 Week 8, Part 8. So trustworthy. Quote people who can be trusted. So don't take medical advice from actors. Take medical advice from doctors. You want acting advice? Take advice from actors. Then talk to an actor. If you want to know how to be a good actor, talk to an actor. And if you want to know about medical shit, ask a doctor. And again, you might want to go to more than one doctor, because I'm sure you guys have stories about doctors being wrong. They're wrong all the time. But they're more likely to be right than an actor would be. And maybe you need to talk to more than one doctor. That would help. Talking to more than one actor is not going to help at all, because they're not experts. You got to check to see if people are experts. Do they know what they're doing? Now, this is a tricky thing, because everybody in America is trying to sell you something, but people that are trying to sell you things are less trustworthy. See, because if people want you to buy something, they're going to say whatever they can say to get you to buy the thing, and that makes them less trustworthy. Does it mean that all salespeople are liars? Not exactly, no. It just means maybe you don't take them that seriously. So if you get advice from somebody and they say, well, I think maybe you should buy this thing, it will help with your teeth. Okay, so my dentist will be like, I think you're grinding your teeth at night. And my dentist will say, I think you should buy a mouth guard, right? And to put at night to keep your teeth from grinding together. And I would say, okay, this sounds good. My dentist thinks I should get a mouth guard, and then I go buy a mouth guard. But see, if the dentist is like, I think you should buy a mouth guard, but you have to buy it from me. See, now I'm less sure. Do I really need the mouth guard, or is the guy just trying to make money off of mouth guards? And again, it's possible. It doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. He could have my best interest at heart. He could be a trustworthy dentist, and maybe it's a good idea for me to listen to them. But it's just that if someone is selling you something, it makes them less trustworthy. It doesn't mean they're liars. It just means they're a little bit less perfect. Which is why, in that case, I might want to ask somebody else, hey, is this dentist giving me good advice? Am I going to ask an actor for that advice? No, I'm not. I'm going to ask a different dentist or a different medical professional. I'm going to find out about some stuff from experts. Cool. Remember how I told you in your papers to make sure you kind of look at both sides and look at multiple sides of a thing? Somebody that insists on only one side or one point of view is less trustworthy. Why? Because they haven't considered both sides of the thing. They haven't. If the person hasn't looked at this issue from multiple angles or considered multiple perspectives, it means they're blinded. They're only looking at it in one way. So somebody that excludes valid points of view is not going to be as trustworthy. And this is tricky, because how do you always know? Because sometimes historians will say, talk about World War II, and they'll talk about the Holocaust. And some person might be like, the Holocaust never happened, and they'll be like, shut up. And they should say shut up, because that person is completely not trustworthy. But if two serious, respected historians get into a debate, and one of them says you're an idiot, and the other one says, well, you make some points, but let's think about this another way, I'm going to trust the second guy over the first guy. So it's hard to know. It's tricky, because you want to make sure if there's really is a lot of experts who think something, if there's real disagreement between historians or between scientists, then you got to find out about it. And then you got to think about it. Is the person considering the debate, or are they just blinded by their side of the debate? But a lot of times there is no side to the debate. Climate change is a real thing. There's a handful of lunatics who think it's not a real thing. They're not trustworthy. Vaccines work. There's a handful of people who think vaccines don't work, but they're really not trustworthy. But then some things are a little bit more complicated, like how online learning should be done, and there's lots of different points of view. And if somebody sees multiple sides of the thing, they're a little more trustworthy, because it means they've at least thought about, even if they reject it, they've at least thought about the other side of the thing. And that's why in your papers, I ask you guys to consider more than one side, to consider what would someone who objected to you say, and what would you say to them? All right, cool. But feel free to just Google the author and find out if they're trustworthy or not. My students, this is a classic one though, my students will often bring me and say, Professor, I found the best quote from my paper. Excellent. What is it? They tell me the quote. And I go, ooh, that does sound good. And then I say, who said it? And they go, I don't know. Then you can't use it. If you don't know the name of the author, you can't use the quote. Because without the name of the author, I have no way to check to see if the author is an expert. So if you have a quotation you want to use, you gotta have the name of the author. Or sometimes my students will have the name of the author, but they don't have the name of the book or the name of the essay where it came from. You gotta find it, or you can't use it. Because if you have the name of the author, but not the name of the book, then maybe that person didn't really say that. Maybe this is just being made up. I gotta have the name of the book and the name of the author. Otherwise, maybe they didn't say that. You gotta make sure. So you gotta check. Okay, the next thing you're looking for, this is a tricky one. Currency, meaning is it current? Is it recent? This is a tricky issue. I'm trying to teach you not just how to deal with my class, but how to deal with all your classes. So with currency, there's a slight problem here. With currency, a lot of times in the sciences, you want the most recent information possible, right? Because science changes fast, and it gets better and better as the years go by. So with science and technology and these kinds of things, you want the most recent stuff, because I don't know if you know a lot about science from like 100 years ago, but it's bullshit. Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie Django Unchained talks about the science of phrenology, and phrenology was a theory that you could measure the shape of someone's skull and it would tell you what kind of person they are. It probably will come as no surprise to you that this was designed to explain why it was okay to keep black people as slaves, and it is garbage. It's not real. They claimed it was science 100 years ago, but it's complete bullshit. So there's a dog running around here. So is anybody coming for this dog? Okay, I don't know. So you got to make, so the point is with science, it's got to be recent science. It's got to be trustworthy. Now this is tricky in my classes because I teach a lot of old shit. Science gets better and better as the years go by, but art does not. Philosophy does not. And so it's okay to quote old philosophy or old art because that's not something that gets better and better as the years go by, but science does. So with science and technology and stuff, you want to quote the most recent stuff is going to be trustworthy, but in art and philosophy, actually sometimes old stuff is actually better, so it's tricky. All right. So the next thing you need to know to see if something's worth quoting in a college paper is you got to think about level of specialization. This is a very difficult thing to teach. But the basic idea is this. You are in college. You are working on an associate's degree or heading towards a bachelor's degree. You are not in high school anymore, and you are also not, you're not in high school anymore, but you're also not in grad school. Grad school when you get a master's degree or a PhD or something. So you're not in high school anymore, that's below you, and you're not in grad school, that's above you. So what the tricky part here is that you want to quote things that are good for college students. If you quote something for a high school student, it's too easy. You shouldn't be quoting easy shit like that in your college papers. Don't quote shit for high schoolers in your college papers. Don't do that. It's too easy. But also, don't quote stuff for super experts who are getting their PhD in the subject because that's too fancy. If you know Goldilocks, there's like food and there's this one's too hot and this one's too cold for the food, or the beds are like this one's too soft, this one's too hard, this one's just right, this food's too hot, this food's too cold, this one's just right. You got to find something that's just right. It's hard to know. The general rule of thumb I would use when you're thinking about this kind of stuff is you want something that is a little bit too hard for you to understand. If it's impossible for you to understand, don't quote it. And if it's super easy for you to understand, might be for high school students, don't quote it. Cool, okay. Doing good. Length. One thing that makes things trustworthy is length. This is the thing my students hate the most because they hate schoolwork and they don't want to spend any more time on it than they absolutely have to. So my students feel like if they read a sentence, they should be able to quote a sentence and that's the end of it. The horrible thing about research is that you may need to read pages and pages and pages and pages of stuff just to get one good quote. They hate that. So, but the crucial thing is to remember is that if you find a cool sentence, you better at least read a couple of pages before that sentence and a couple of pages after that sentence. Then you can quote the sentence. But if you just find on the internet a floating sentence that doesn't have just one sentence and it has like a quote by Plato, nothing before it, nothing after it, don't quote it. You've got to look at, because sometimes people will put famous quotes up and it's just a floating quote by Plato or a quote by Martin Luther King or a quote by Jesus or something. You've got to find the page that it comes from, and I would read at least a couple of pages before and a couple of pages after. It's frustrating and it's aggravating, but you need to see the context of the quote. So when you do your research, a lot of people will go on websites that just give them these short little quotes, and they don't have the pages before, the pages after. It's hard to know if you're understanding the quote correctly. I mean, try turning the Plato to a random page and look at a random sentence. You're gonna have a hard time following it. But if you read the sentences before and the sentences after, makes a lot more sense. So unfortunately, this is a really annoying thing, but you have to quote something that where you can see a lot of sentences before it and a lot of you got to read a couple pages before the quote and a couple of pages after the quote to make sure the quote is good. All right, I'll see you in the next video.